with that said, I'm going to go ahead and bring Rob on board here. Rob, as I said before, is joining us today. He is the Director of Product Marketing for Palo Alto Networks. Rob has done this for us before. We're looking forward to having him here again. And with that, I will stop sharing. And Rob, the floor is all yours, sir.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining. I'm actually going to do something a little bit different today and start off not just with my presentation, but actually share an article with you that literally just came out in today's Wall Street Journal. And so I'll drop it into the chat, the URL. Unfortunately, it is behind a paywall, but if you have Wall Street Journal subscription, you'll be fine. And then, of course, there's archive.vn, which you could also use to access the article. But essentially, its thesis is, and its reporting is the fact that right now there is a huge skills gap when it comes to securing AI. And the whole article details how a couple of CISOs are going in depth on how difficult it is to find talent and so forth. And as we already know, there's already a big skills gap in cybersecurity, but it seems to be especially acute in this area. And it's interesting to think that this generation of college graduates, high school graduates, and so forth, they won't know a world without AI. In the same way, like my kids don't know a world without a phone or the internet, whereas I do. So I think this is going to be a very interesting kind of evolution that we're going to go through. So a little bit about me. I manage product marketing for the AI and platformization efforts here at Palo Alto. I've been at the company about 4 years now. Actually came through the Expanse acquisition and then moved on to other activities post acquisition. So that's my history at Palo. Beyond that, I've worked at different companies in cybersecurity. Was at FireEye for a bit, Imperva, but actually started my career way back when in security at Fortify doing code review. And so been in cyber now for like 20 plus years and no end in sight apparently. So anyway, so what I will do now is let's get started with the presentation. Cool. Hopefully you should have you should be able to see this.
Yep, we're good, Rob.
Good, excellent, thank you. So what I'm going to do today is actually walk you through what's going on from an AI standpoint and some of the confusion and questions that we see from our customers about this. But then more importantly, walk you through a little bit about what we've done, because we've had our own experience with AI and how to secure it. And of course, unlike a lot of you, we also happen to be a cybersecurity company. So we took that experience and translated that into a set of capabilities and products. So I'll walk you through all that, and then hopefully you have some questions. We're set for 2 hours. I don't think this is going to take 2 hours. So if you need to catch up on some news or something, you'll probably get a little bit of time back. But we'll make this as thorough and hopefully engaging as possible. So first thing here I have is about the executive orders for securing AI, both from the US and the EU. Purpose here is just simply to convey this has become a really big deal in very short order. To put this in context, ChatGPT is the fastest growing application in history, 0 to 100 million users in about 3 months' time. So that has scared a lot of people. In my conversations with security people around ChatGPT, generative AI, I hear one thing. One CISO told me, quote, "This has really messed up my life." And so we're seeing how this is moving much faster than cloud transformation, much faster than even internet adoption. And so now we're in this period of AI transformation, and governments are acting. It's becoming a topic of board conversations as well. And basically, at a very, very high level, the major questions that are being asked is, what can we do to overhaul our business model with AI? What can we do? So that might be new applications. It might be, a new way of doing business. But also the second one is, what do we do to boost our employee productivity? And of course, a lot of employees are asking that question themselves and trying to get into things like using ChatGPT and likewise in maybe shadow methods and so forth. So, but then of course there's what's going on with the attacker world, and here we have a couple of projections, a couple of things that we think will happen from an AI perspective when it comes to the attacker world. So building ransomware will probably get accelerated. We're already seeing some services that have not actually produced good quality things yet, but over time, we expect that to change. The time for compromised exfiltration and vulnerability exploitation, we also think will drop quite a bit as well. So hackers, by definition, innovators, early adopters. We're already, as you probably have seen a lot of, we've already seen some innovations, some simple ones like, using ChatGPT to check your emails to make sure there's no typos. And so things like phishing and things like that have skyrocketed. So for example, even in Japan, where they had sort of a natural insulation against phishing and business email compromise, they have seen that really, really skyrocket because suddenly anybody can write a good quality email to the head of procurement in Japanese, and it works. So this is what we're already starting to see, and we're going to keep our eye on how this will change in the future. What I don't want to do is say, like, no, this is everything's changed right now. We don't want to be that vendor. I don't want to be that person that's telling you the sky is falling right now. What I am trying to say is keep an eye on it. This will change things soon. And it will probably change things pretty dramatically in the not too distant future. So now is a good time to prepare for it. So what we're doing from a product standpoint, from our corporate standpoint in terms of helping customers, is really three major areas around AI. First one is what we call secure AI by design. So that's basically helping you secure the employees who are using generative AI, but also being able to secure the process of building generative AI applications. So working with the developers in particular to help make sure that the new AI apps that you're building, or the old apps that you're retooling with AI capabilities, those are actually built properly from the ground up. And then what we've done is we've embedded AI in our products. We've had AI in our products for quite some time. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this one. This is really just kind of a reminder that, yes, we've been on the AI forefront for a while. But until recently, with the genesis of ChatGPT, people haven't paid a whole lot of attention to it now. Now they're thinking a lot more about it, and they're especially thinking about it from an attacker standpoint. And we just want to make sure that people understand what we're doing to help you counter AI with AI. And then finally, you need to be able to take advantage of AI from a workflow standpoint, from an efficiency standpoint. And that's where we're trying to simplify security. And that's basically with a set of copilots. And some of you may have actually been involved in some of the recent betas, current betas that are taking place with respect to the copilots that we've put out. So let's start with secure AI by design. Really, the main things that you need to do here is, from an employee standpoint, you need to track and monitor AI usage. What are they using? How are they using it? How frequently are they using it? So you need to have that visibility in order to do that. And then from an application development standpoint, you need to understand every step of the application lifecycle and what supply chain components are going into that. So, for example, today, if you go to Hugging Face, I'm sure some of you have spent some time there. They have hundreds of thousands of different AI components where you can pull open source code that takes a picture of somebody and then turns it into a movie, or takes a voice snippet and then turns that into pretty much any kind of text dialogue that you want to do. And that's obviously a key part of what we're seeing in terms of deepfakes. So, but what you want to do is be able to see, excuse me, what's happening from an application development standpoint. Like I mentioned, I started my life out in code review. Having that visibility during the entire development cycle was a key part of what we did back then. And nothing has changed now except for what's going into it and how you're doing it. And then lastly is you need to be able to protect people from, or protect your organizations from unauthorized access and data leakage. So AI is actually opening up a whole set of new avenues into data, because that obviously is what fuels a lot of your models, and also your employees are have the opportunity, the ability to potentially put in things like a spreadsheet. Hey, can you crunch some of these finance numbers for me, or HR information? Here's some salary information. Can you do some data analysis for me? Things like that need to be understood and, if necessary, controlled and prevented. So, so right now, what I'm going to do is start talking a little bit about what we're doing from an employees using Gen AI application standpoint. So, to be clear, this is basically your employees who are using things like a ChatGPT, or they're using HR applications to help them go and do things a lot faster and a lot more efficiently. Content generation is a big one. They're obviously using things like Google and so forth. So this is probably the one thing that people notice first. And this is where you might even have the biggest potential for shadow AI usage. And what we see here is, about well over half of company employees are using a lot of these applications on a weekly basis. And if you go to any events for HR, finance, legal, you'll see that the usage of AI is way up. In fact, GitHub has reported that companies incorporating just the term AI into what they're doing from a development standpoint, that has gone up 3x just in the past few months. So it's actually at this point, it is an exponential increase in terms of what vendors are actually providing and giving your employees, your colleagues, the ability to use these things. So this has gone way up. I actually think 57% is probably a little bit too low, and it's probably a bit higher. So I mentioned, I was going to talk a little bit about what we did here. And so this kind of gives you an idea of the process we went through as a company here to kind of understand what was happening. So right now, what we're seeing is basically two extremes when companies embrace Gen AI. Extreme one is they embrace Gen AI. So they open the floodgates, allow people to use it because the CEO or somebody says, hey, we have to really become an AI first company. And of course, that puts security behind the 8 ball. They have to scramble to figure out what to do and so forth. But then there's the other side of the spectrum, which is, let's lock everything up and not allow any kind of access whatsoever. So both methods, both extremes have benefits and drawbacks. So obviously, if you're going really quickly, your employees will learn stuff, but then of course you expose yourself to a lot of risk. If you lock things down, then you're going to increase the use of shadow AI. You lose that visibility. You don't know what people are doing, and you don't know what apps they might be deploying and so forth. And so you miss a lot miss a lot when it comes to Gen AI. So what we did was actually, frankly, here internally, was a kind of both actually. So we started off by kind of blocking everything. And so if we spoke a few months ago, I would not have been able to access ChatGPT. But over time, it was like, okay, we need to learn how to do this stuff. Employees need to figure out how to improve customer support, or how to improve content generation, how to do finance grunt work a lot faster, things like that. So what we did is first is like, okay, let's open the floodgates a little bit, incorporate some guardrails, but let's use what we currently have. So the idea was to just establish some visibility. And as you see here, it was a combination of SASE, firewall data, Prisma Cloud, and so forth. Once you had that baseline and you understood what was going on, then what you could do is really define a effective pinpoint kind of InfoSec policy. And then once you understood what the in addition, once you understood what the exposures are, then you could get really selective about what people could use, could not use, establish those controls, and then implement a monitoring process. So this is kind of the approach that we did. And then we realized, okay, certain products might be good at this, may not be as good on other things. And that's when we started to refine it. And as I said earlier, obviously we're a cybersecurity company, so this is how we're taking this, and we're 15,000 employees, and taking these lessons, I think, will hopefully kind of give you some perspective as you go through your AI transformation journey. So the first capability we brought to bear was something we call AI access security. And so what you see here is basically getting that visibility to understand what Gen AI applications are being used. So you see here full-time visibility for AI usage. So you see here in the middle, 136 Gen AI apps have been identified, 54 are allowed, 52 have been blocked across 15,000 users. And certain employees are allowed to use it and certain employees are not allowed to use it. So for example, recently I was talking to one customer, and they had basically three buckets of employees, and they were able to apply different controls based on what they felt was the appropriate level of access for those employees. So certain employees with very heavy data access, they put very tight controls. Basically, they weren't allowed to use that stuff. For more administrative employees, they give them kind of halfway. And then for some of the researchers within the organization who need to be very aggressive and want to be able to use these kinds of tools to help boost their productivity, they gave them a much more liberal access to these tools. So, you're able to kind of do some granularity and control over this. Then what you're also able to do, as you see here, is be able to protect data, scan where your data is, secrets, and intellectual property. And so here we are able to provide some detailed view in terms of how that works and how that looks and what the topology is. And then, of course, being able to block some of these things as need be. So that's AI access security. And then here's actually, I think, a more interesting and more detailed view of this, because what you're also able to do is you're able to give some detail in terms of what the actual applications are that are being used and how they're being used. So for example, here you have a conversational chat, do a chat GPT. You see how many applications, how many users are using it, and so forth. And this actually has kind of a dual purpose here. Purpose one is obviously security, being able to control and have that visibility. But purpose two is actually, believe it or not, to also encourage your employees, because you might say, oh, out of the couple thousand users using application X, shouldn't marketing be using more of this? So you can go to the marketing team and maybe encourage folks as opposed to just say no. So it's quite a contrast to be able to have both the ability to control and see, but also, if necessary, maybe encourage and and have a seat at the business table when it comes to being able to contribute to the growth of AI-centric companies. So this is kind of a cool capability here to be able to do that. So again, that was employees using Gen AI applications. What I'm going to do is switch gears here and talk a little bit about building those AI applications. So I suspect a lot of you have already been asked within your organizations to take a look at what can AI do to boost and change your business model. So we're seeing our customers build customer service co-pilots, help desks, as you see here, fraud detection, shopping assistance, and then intelligent management systems, like for example for energy. So this is actually happening at a great pace. As I mentioned earlier, GitHub saw a 3x increase in terms of the number of projects. Hugging Face, I think, has seen almost a doubling just in the last 6 months of open source packages within Hugging Face. So this is growing very, very rapidly, and this is obviously a big topic of conversation within C-level and boards as well. But if you look at what's required in order to make this work, it's a good bit different from traditional applications that, for example, I used to work with way back in the day. So first you have your AI infrastructure, you have your data sets, AI models, plugins, agents, things like that all have to get incorporated into what you're doing. So it is a very, very different ecosystem. And it's a very complex ecosystem, which of course introduces a lot of threats. So within your infrastructure, you can have remote code execution, or you don't segment everything properly, so lateral movement can be easily deployed. Your models can be susceptible to a new category of attacks, like prompt injection or a model DOS attack. plugins and agents might be not properly put together, and therefore they can have unlimited communications mechanisms. And then, of course, the big one is data. And so, as I said earlier, AI is opening up new avenues to data, and in some cases, it's even opening up new data. And the concern, of course, about leakage and being able to access these kinds of data sets is very, very high. And this is actually probably one of the top motivators for companies right now to really figure out how to make sure that they have a lockdown process for application development. So what we've done is we have two products here to help out. The first one is AI Security Posture Management, which helps basically with some of the building side of the application. So you see here, supply chain risk, identifying data sets that are going into those models, and then runtime, which is more around obviously once you've deployed something that's runtime. So how is something going to get abused once it's out there from like a DOS attack or something like that? So these are the capabilities we brought to bear here. So what AI, excuse me, what AI SPM does, and here we have a pretty cool glimpse into how it works, is obviously it starts with visibility, as most things often do in security. So what does that AI ecosystem look like when it comes to applications? You need to have a view of your models, your overall infrastructure, data, and what agents are involved. And so you see here, you've got 76 applications, which breaks down into 36 model endpoints, 100 data sets, and so forth. And then what you can do is do an analysis of what doesn't look right. And so in this case, you see here, there's a couple of risks associated with, for example, your training data set is publicly writable. In other words, somebody can go in and mess it up and convince your models that 1 + 1 does equal 3, things like that. And then what we do is we help you prioritize so you know what to start with. So this is what AI SPM basically does. And here's, you've got a little bit more detailed view of how this looks and works. And so here you get the overall picture again, but also what you're doing is you're getting a little bit more detail in terms of the infrastructure you're using, like Azure, et cetera, and then what your overall risk score. So you have a decent roadmap and dashboard of what's happening. But if you find something and you need more detail in terms of what it's all about, we've made this very, very clickable, and so you can continue to investigate and see what else you need to do in order to reduce risk within the organization. And then, of course, you can go back into your user interface and actually start to execute some changes and fixes to make sure that things are properly done. Then what we've done is also introduced AI runtime, which again is, as its name applies, it is at runtime. And essentially what it does is it understands your overall infrastructure. So what apps, data sets, models, and so forth that you have. So it will actually block things in real time, and this is what's going to be used to safeguard some of those applications once they go live as well. So this is sort of the enforcement mechanism once your models go live. So the next the next thing I wanted to discuss here was embedding precision AI across our entire portfolio. So I mentioned earlier, we've been using AI for quite some time within our product suite. This is just, reinforcing the fact that we've had this for some time, because in many ways, using AI is really, really important and necessary in cybersecurity for automation and for scale. So that's the reason why we've been doing that. We have if you listen to our earnings calls, Nikesh has mentioned that about 15% of our engineering team is data scientists. So this is something that we've been doing for some time, and it's been a high priority. Now we're just simply just articulating like what we've been doing from an AI perspective, because it's becoming a lot more of a topic of conversation. So what we did is we put together something called Precision AI. Precision AI is our way of tailoring AI for cybersecurity. So it's really just a combination of different AI capabilities. But really what's important is the foundation of what goes into our AI, which of course is data. And so when you look at the data that we see, because we have a very large customer base, we see a lot of attacks. We process a lot of events. So we see a lot of that data, and being able to put all that together is what goes behind our AI. The important thing about AI is really a focus on accuracy, because just like AI works for self-driving automobiles that better be accurate, we have the exact same attitude and approach. It's got to be really, really accurate. And so we put tremendous focus on that. And we do that is, as I mentioned earlier, we have a lot of expertise on this. We try to fine tune the data, because right now, if you have the right data, that's what's going to go into the model, and that's what's going to create that accuracy. So, of course, things like ChatGPT have gotten kind of sometimes a negative reputation for hallucination and so forth. So, for example, in my case, it says that I graduated from Syracuse University. I've never actually stepped foot in Syracuse University, but it's using an incorrect data to come up with that conclusion. We also think the fact that we have a platform approach, so in other words, we've integrated a lot of our capabilities, helps with that precision as well. So having all this combination is what enables us to bring that kind of accuracy, and this is what we call precision AI today. So combination of machine learning, deep learning, generative AI. And again, I want to say very clearly here, we control a lot of the data that goes into this. So hence the focus here on precision, because not having accurate security information would obviously be a huge disservice to our customers. So this was a real key component of what we had to do. So we've embedded precision AI across everything. I suspect most of you are probably Strata customers. So, we've had capabilities within the firewall, our cloud services as well. Prisma Cloud has added, for example, just recently added something called Blast Radius, which is AI driven. What it does is it allows you to look at all the different attack paths within your cloud infrastructure, and then understand like what an attacker could do and how do you prioritize and fix those attack paths. And then, of course, our SOC platform has been AI-driven for some time. XIM, has been famous for processing, billions of events for customers to compress the mean time to remediate and respond for Cortex customers. But that's kind of focusing on what we have from a current standpoint. I also want to change gears here and talk a little bit about what we're doing from a simplification standpoint. So we have been slowly going within the cybersecurity industry towards more and more automated security. So it has been a process. This is obviously not something that happens overnight, but as you see here, IDS kind of converged with IPS, eventually even becoming part of the firewall, and now they're very much automated. And all the way to having SOAR capabilities to automate plays, so that you eliminate some of that manual thing. So automation is it's necessary. Going back to the Wall Street Journal article that I started off with this around the skills gap within cybersecurity. So we think that co-pilots are an important step in this evolution as well. I want to be clear here that it's not that they are going to provide or enable massive amounts of automation immediately. It is a step, but it is an important step. So what we've done is we've designed them to provide what we call partial assist today. So answer a few basic questions. Over time, we think that they'll go to full assist, and the concept is over a couple of years, they'll become something that you use for hopefully full automation. Getting this right is absolutely like the most important thing. Having a co-pilot that produces or reports false information, wrong information, is simply not going to work. So it has to be done methodically, carefully, and pun intended, with precision. So this is the evolution. This is the concept that we're trying to follow. So, oops, I meant to get rid of that one. So let's talk a little bit about what we're doing from a co-pilot standpoint. So we have 3 co-pilots focusing on our 3 platforms: Strata for network security, Prisma Cloud for cloud security, and Cortex for security operations. And so these are currently all 3 in beta. I think some of you might even be beta customers, I suspect. And what we're trying to do with these is we've actually learned quite a bit from the beta process so far. Knowledge at your fingertips. So this is actually really, really interesting. So what we've learned from some of our co-pilots during the beta process is that especially newer security folks who've not been trained or as familiar with our products, what our co-pilots can do is help them find and surface functionality that they may not know. So if you find an issue, oh, well, can we do that? Well, yes, you can isolate this or control that, and it kind of guides you within the product. So that's a big help. The other thing we're trying to do here is connect information to action, to insights, so that you can make a connection. If you find this, well, maybe you should also do that. And so that goes back to, for example, having, some SOAR-like capabilities so that you have some actions to follow after you discover certain kinds of information. And then, of course, automating that. So, for example, some basic things like, automating a report generation for compliance or for higher ups that you might need to do. So these are the kind of things that we've seen from the beta. And the good news is that we saw actually good usage rate so far on the co-pilot. So they definitely seem to be helping. Each co-pilot, though, of course, given its different focus, does have a slightly different area. So, for example, in the case of network security, you're obviously very worried about user experience, so you can have that capability to help you understand what that is. When it comes to cloud, what we do here is we have a focus on, okay, for example, how things are configured. What kind of vulnerabilities can you do? So in this case, you see, okay, am I vulnerable to a new vulnerability? And it gives you a little bit of that information as well. And then, when it comes to Cortex and security operations, this is really just about understanding what you have going on quickly in your environment and what you might need to do in order to take action and resolve any issues or resolve any problems that you have going on within your environment. So we will be announcing a little bit more about these co-pilots in the not too distant future. If you are a beta tester, hopefully you liked it. If you're not a beta tester and you want to give it a try, feel free to message me after all this, and I can see if it's still possible to get you signed up. So with that, that is the quick overview of what we're doing. I suggest as a next step, if you have any interest in any particular product or capability, reach out to your local rep, and I'm sure they'll be happy to set up a little bit more of a deep dive in terms of how things work and what else you might whatever else you might want to know about the capabilities. So again, we're really focused on helping customers with their transformation into the world of AI, building things based on our own experience, but also seeing what customers are currently going through, because this is still very much a learning phase. As one customer told me, this is reminds me of cloud, and we're still explaining what a workload is to some people. So we're in that phase right now. So with that, I'll just see if there were any questions or anything like that. So.
Yeah, we did have one good question from Vincent Ha. He's asking, where is the metrics from? Would it be available from the PAN firewall? This question was kind of early in your presentation when you were talking about when X number of occurrences per day, that type of information, how many tools are being utilized by their customers, by your employees, et cetera.
Yeah. So where's the metrics from? I think, and I'm sorry, Vincent, if I'm messing this up. I think what I was referring to, those metrics that we got, those are actually coming from the actual AI products. So, for example, Access, the metrics was how many Gen AI apps are you using? What are they? Who's using them? Things like that. For the development side, for building side, we were using AI SPM, and that's where the metrics came from that. So, and then runtime, what that does is it gives you kind of a lay of the land. It's like sort of the full topology of what you have from that standpoint. So hopefully that answered your question. But it basically any of the numbers I showed that were from a user interface, those came from the actual products themselves. So hopefully that's what you were trying to get at.
Well, that does actually prompt a question that I'm wondering then is what can customers do to find out what their employees are currently using if they don't have any of these AI tools? Can the next gen firewall tell you that, yeah, 47% of the people are using ChatGPT or something along those lines?
Yeah, so you can, as I said in that one slide where we used our own journey, you had to pull together a couple of different products to get that full set of capabilities. So, for example, looking at using some of your CASB tools might give you some idea, but doesn't give you a full picture. So that's the reason why we had to retool some of our or add additional functionality to our suite of products to really focus in on AI, because AI is a very, very different beast. And so we have to be careful here, because what we don't want to do is fall into the temptation of using yesterday's technology tomorrow, which is what some other vendors are doing. This is a different beast. And so the reason why we came out with a really, really strong set of capabilities is because this is a different beast. And having that visibility does require a new approach in order to get that kind of visibility that you actually need in order to secure it. So good question. Thank you.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Does anyone else have any other questions for Rob here? Like to throw them in the chat, we'd be more than happy to throw the questions your way. If you think of anything later, everyone, if you would go ahead and actually put your questions into the live discussion. I shared the link a little bit ago about that. We will have somebody monitoring that. If you do think of things, if somebody there can't answer the question, we'll shoot Rob an email. Rob, you had mentioned people could possibly reach out to you if they're beta customers or whatnot. How is the best way to reach out to you? Is there a form they can fill out somewhere?
Actually, the best way to do it would be to get in touch with your rep, and then your rep can then sign you up and take the appropriate action. I do suggest that everybody also talk to their reps about maybe getting like a second discussion about some of these products so you can get in a little bit more of a technical deep dive as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then I can't remember, did I put, because I don't see it, did I put into the chat the Wall Street Journal? Oh, yeah, I did.
Yes,
I did.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, we did get that in there. Yeah.
I don't want to be a man of empty promises. Good.
Completely understandable, yes. It looks like we don't have anything more in the way of questions coming in right now. Rob, thank you very much again for doing this. Really appreciate it. This was, it's terrifying to me, just the whole AI world, and not just people taking advantage of it, but people using it incorrectly too. Is just, it's a dangerous tightrope walk, I think. And we need to be sure that we have those protections in place. We have that knowledge out there, that training out there for the people so that they can be able to protect themselves at least. Yeah.
So it's a good comment. In fact, the CISO I was talking to about this said AI used the following analogy from a movie, by the way, which I haven't seen. So hopefully I don't screw this up too badly. But he said it was like the serum in Captain America. It can make you stronger, but it'll make you bad strong or good strong. So that's how some people at least are thinking about it.
Yeah, it's not the tool; it's how the tool is used. Very, very apt description.
All right, Charles, everybody, thank you.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you very much, Rob. I'll go ahead and let you go now.